Ahoy folks, Craig signing in for Pure Xbox from the neon streets of Night City to share with you our review of Cyberpunk 2077's 2.0 update, as well as its slick new Super Spy Phantom Liberty DLC. This review was written by the increasingly handsome PJ O'Reilly for PureXbox.com and adapted into video by me. Before we get going, it's worth mentioning that the footage you'll be watching was captured on both PC and Xbox, but supplied by CD Projekt Red. Right then, let's get stuck in.
Easy peasy, I say. Crack some skulls and roll in.
I'd rather avoid a mess. But if that's the option you want.
What a rollercoaster ride we've all been on with Cyberpunk 2077. After a hugely disappointing experience with the balked original console release, which resulted in a much lower scored review than we would have expected to dish out, we were then pleased to report on Hotfix 1.4's litany of incremental improvements that made a notable, if not game-changing, difference to the core experience. However, things just still weren't where we'd have liked them to be. This still wasn't the dystopian cyberpunk RPG we had dreamed of, and nowhere near touching the level of greatness that CD Projekt Red had previously reached with The Witcher 3. In our humble opinion, Cyberpunk's biggest problems, the deeper issues that lay beyond the mess of bugs, could never be corrected. And yet, the maestros at CD Projekt Red have dug in. They've stayed the course once again, and with Update 2.0 and the Phantom Liberty DLC, have managed what we genuinely thought was impossible. Cyberpunk 2077 in its 2.0 form is an experience that finally lives up to pretty much all the hype. Let's start with the enormous 2.0 update here. Easily the biggest and most important aspect of this new phase in Cyberpunk 2077's life. And the devs have got super busy in the bowels of this beast, ripping out and replacing the disappointing and fiddly systems that so stank out the RPG aspects of the first version of the game. We've now got meaningful, fun, and exciting upgrade paths, skill unlocks, and powers to play with. There are recognizably different paths to take with your version of V here, pumping your skill points, perk points, and relic rewards into distinct and easy to pass trees that allow you to create builds that will feel wildly different on repeat playthroughs. You can go full beast mode, create a V who can blast around battlefields like some sort of foul-mouthed tattooed Sonic the Hedgehog, barreling at electric speeds into enemies with your blades, performing enormous leaps into the air that end in savage melee attacks, and focusing on sword combat that now feels exactly as good as it looks. Want to deflect bullets with your katana as you charge at your enemy? You can do that. Fancy lifting a thug above your head before flinging them into a wall so hard that they turn into bloody dust? Go for it! Or perhaps you'll take a tech and stealth route, putting all of your points into the cool skills tree, giving yourself the ability to skulk around and pick off your prey. There's also, of course, a ton of gun-related options that turn V into an absolutely unstoppable shotgun blasting behemoth. These new skill trees are huge. You'll be taking a good long while to see everything they offer, and these big changes are then layered on top of combat and traversal that's been tightened up, refined, and made to feel even more satisfying, impactful, and exciting. Your hacking abilities have been boosted too, and they feed into this intoxicating mix in lots more immediate ways than the vanilla version of the game. Choosing to focus on hacking as you upgrade allows you to queue up hacks on a single opponent, for example, totally overwhelming them, and environments now give you a more satisfying number of ways in which to toy with your foes. With tweaks to enemy AI also making for improved adversaries, Cyberpunk 2077's reworked combat is just an absolute joy as of this latest update. There aren't many action games, never mind RPGs, that can boast combat as slick, cool, and flexible as this. There's also been a lot of work put into vehicular traversal and car-based combat. You can now partake in chaotic running battles from the comfort of your Thornton Colby. Some vehicles even come with mounted weapons to play with, and the police who give chase as a result of the carnage you create are finally clever enough to provide a challenge. There's no more blinking into existence from the Bacon Boys here. with a reworked wanted system giving us the cops we expected from day one. Police who are fun to toy with, and who respond to your violence much more appropriately. On a more general note, we hated the floaty feel of cars and bikes when Cyberpunk 2077 first released. Everything about driving in this game fell off, but that's no longer the case. We still reckon that bikes feel better than cars overall, but there's no doubting that the hard work has been put in here to give vehicles more weight, to make them feel more responsive and connected to the world that they're moving through. There's also more NPC traffic that behaves as though it finally understands how roads work, making for a much more believable city to traverse. The game's messy loot system has been overhauled too, cleaning up the constant glut of guns that cluttered your inventory, and you can now easily see what level of rarity a dropped weapon is, and you get the detailed breakdown of its specs before you decide to pick it up off the ground. Menus have been streamlined for easier navigation of your inventories. The journal is 100% less of a nightmare to browse, the phone isn't a constant annoyance anymore, and there are countless smaller fixes and balances here that make for an experience that's just way better in every way. We could spend ages picking out other little improvements, stuff like how you no longer have finite health or grenades, with these now working on cooldown timers that make for far less fiddling in menus, how you can freely respec your character, the way clothes are now just for aesthetics, and there's absolutely tons of cool outfits to find. But let's move on to Phantom Liberty itself.
Before we go, apologies for the precautions.
This 20-hour slice of DLC is quite simply jaw-dropping stuff. We won't let slip a single spoiler here, but this is a super slick and streamlined thrill ride, one that funnels you through tense and taut set pieces that give you lots of effortlessly cool scenarios in which to deploy all of your brand new skills. Phantom Liberty kicks off with a spectacular crash, and thankfully not one of your console's dashboard this time around. With a president in peril, a talented netrunner fighting for survival, and a situation that draws V into an espionage thriller setup that bangs along at a cracking pace. It's a new slice of narrative that bounds from one mad situation to the next, rarely letting up in terms of action, whilst also managing to introduce a bevy of excellent new characters into the mix. Idris Elba is excellent as Reed, and we reckon he totally overshadows Keanu's Johnny. He's a complex character, a brooding figure who we want to be around, want to gel with, to get to the bottom of. And this has a knock-on effect of making decisions that you take down the line all the more difficult and thrilling. Beyond Reed, you've got a very strong lineup of memorable new associates and enemies in the form of Songbird, Kurt Hansen, Alex, and more, who managed to imbue this new story with a real sense of urgency and emotion. Of course, the narrative aspect of the base game was never the issue. The original campaign story is immensely entertaining, and we can't wait to get back into it with Update 2.0's improvements, but Phantom Liberty stands out as a truly shining example of CD Projekt Red's abilities. This DLC delivers the cyberpunk experience we dreamed of back in 2020. It lets you play with crazy future tech in life or death situations. It can stand toe-to-toe with anything in The Witcher 3, and it made us giddy to restart Cyberpunk 2077 with a fresh new save. We want to roll through the whole thing again with our brand new version of V, taking our time to mop up every side mission, see every ending, and just exist in a night city that, with Dogtown added to the mix, finally lives up to everything we hoped it would be. In terms of performance on the Series X, this is the only area where we have any remaining gripes, and these gripes relate to the quality graphics setting only. In performance mode, we've had zero issues with Cyberpunk 2077 2.0. It runs smoothly, we've seen zero bugs, which is just unbelievable, and it looks outstanding, even without ray tracing and at a reduced resolution. However, at the current time of recording this, we can't recommend that anybody opt to play in the game's quality mode. It feels jittery and juddery right now, noticeably slower, stodgier, and less responsive than its 60 FPS counterpart. You can see the graphical difference as soon as you switch quality mode on. It really does look incredible, but there's no way that these bells and whistles are worth the drop in responsiveness as things stand right now. With that one negative out of the way though, what an incredible turnaround this is for Cyberpunk 2077. It feels great to be able to wholeheartedly recommend this game, to see it finally in a place where it can sit alongside the mighty Witcher 3 as one of the best RPG experiences that you can dive into. An RPG that delivers the narrative goods whilst also serving up an intoxicating open world and combat that puts many straight up action games to shame. It's been 2.5 years coming, but Cyberpunk 2077 2.0 and Phantom Liberty have been worth waiting for.
I'll have a double cheeseburger while you're at it.
Cyberpunk 2077 in its 2.0 form and with Phantom Liberty finally in place feels like a game reborn. This is every bit the experience we wanted back in 2020, a deep and addictive action RPG that can now sit alongside The Witcher 3 as one of the all-time greats. We've had our ups and downs with this one, oh boy, it's been a roller coaster, but entirely reworked skills and perks, refined and refreshed combat, retooled loot and menu systems, and a cracking new slice of CD Projekt Red narrative magic makes for a game that we are finally able to recommend wholeheartedly. Sheesh, they've only gone and bloody done it. Since you've made it to this part of the video, I'd love to know if all of our praise for Cyberpunk 2.0 and Phantom Liberty is enough to bring you back to Night City. Let us know in the comments below. Remember to check out purexbox.com for all the latest Xbox news, updates, and reviews such as this one, as well as subscribing to the channel here. All that's left to do is say bye-bye for now. Cheerio!